Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihi. M.A.L.I. I greet our listening audience. Assalamu alaikum wa Ramadan Mubarak. We welcome you to our morning presentation, our morning Ramadan presentation. And we're going to be looking at chapter 35, verse 10, and we're going to reflect upon this verse. So let's go right to the verse. It reads, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Man kana yuridu al-izzata falillahi al-izzatu jami'an. We're going to concentrate on this phrase of the verse. This is the main phrase of the verse we'll be looking at as we comment on the whole verse, as we reflect upon the whole verse. So it reads, Man kana, whoever yuridul al-izzata, whoever desires al-izzah. And I'm not going to translate al-izzah right now. The students, you have the write-up, you have the Arabic in front of you. It was sent out ahead of time. You have it in front of you. So we're looking at the word al-izzah. Al-izzah. We're not going to translate it now. We'll look at the definitions, the dictionaries, the commentators, and then we'll come back and see this idea of al-izzah. So whoever desires al-izzah, falillahi. Thus, falillahi, thus the al-izzah belongs to Allah. Jami'an, all izzah, all of it belongs to Allah. This is what we want to concentrate on, looking at. And then take a look at the rest of the verse. Even if you don't know Arabic, look at the rest of the verse in English. Verse 35:10. Because of the time, I won't go through the whole verse. 35:10. So looking at this definition of al-izzah from one of the scholars, he says, al-izzatu halatun. Al-izzatu halatun. Al-izzah is a certain condition, or we could say predisposition. Mani'atun, meaning it's an impeding or resistant. It impedes or resists. It's a disposition that it impedes or resists lil insani, for mankind, for the human being. Minan yangalaba, in that it allows him to yangalaba, it allows him to overcome or not be overcome by certain influences, opposing influences, we could say. So we could say that from this idea that this is an impeding or resistant disposition for mankind that would not be overcome by, or that will overcome an opposing force that would influence that which protects and preserves his nobility and dignity. Yes, you'll see how we extract this from the whole verse, this idea. Then it continues, min qawlihim, from their saying, from the saying of the people, aradun azazun. We're saying an earth, and azaz, izzah, and izzah or azaz from the same word, earth, land or ground, meaning that a hard ground, a ground that's hard, that you can't penetrate. This is the idea. It gets the origin of the idea of the word izzah. It's a disposition. It's an impeding disposition that's impenetrable. You can't penetrate it. Yes. So now let's go to one of the scholars who comments on it. He's commenting on the phrase we're saying, "Man kana yuridul izzata," whoever desires al-izzah, falillahi al-izzatu jami'an. So whoever desires this impeding, resisting disposition, having this force, this force, this spiritual force, we could call it if we use religious language, whoever desires it, he's saying, that is to say, el-izzatu sifatun. El-izzah is a characteristic. It's a attribute. It's a quality min sifatillah, from the attributes of Allah, the qualities, the characteristics of Allah. This is this izzah. It belongs to Allah, all of it, only. Makhsusatan, specifically, exclusively. Man aradaha, he says, whoever desires it, fa'alayhi bil-fina'i. This fina', bil-fina', is the elimination. So whoever desires it, upon him is the process of elimination or obliteration of his own qualities that he have assigned to himself, his own characteristics that he have assigned to himself, perhaps through experience and an influence. Fi sifatillahi, in the characteristics of Allah Ta'ala, an sifatihi, from his own, that he is to, we could say, he is to liberate his own ideas of possessing an impeding, characterizing force, in having power and glory that preserves human nobility and dignity. This is finat in context of izzah, because this izzah gives us this force that raises up, that raises us up or elevates us, or we are seen by it to great power and glory, that will preserve our human nobility and dignity on our own. But we're to give this idea up, eliminate these ideas, to be absorbed or consumed by the attribute of Allah that gives such power and glory, which is imperishable. When everything else perishes, when everything else is eliminated, when everything else passes away, the attributes of Allah remains. Thumma ulima, then he has learned tariqul tajridi. He has learned the path of freedom, the true path he's now on. He has learned and he's now on, now possesses the true freedom. He's on the true path of freedom, where mahwu as-sifat, and the elimination of his own characterization. Yes. So commenting on this, in conclusion, we would say the influence of the chief deceiver, in considering the whole verse, concentrating on this first phrase that we're looking at, the influence of the chief deceiver is not so powerful that we can't overcome its dominance, or we can't be overcome by it. Yes, it's not that powerful that we can't overcome it, or that we can't be overcome by it. Yes, we cannot be overcome by it. With what Allah gives us in having resistance or an impeding disposition, we will find that Satan's plot to influence is weak. Also, we must understand that we are to resist being affected by our own goodness and achievement. Self-admiration can become a form of deception that can bring us down. So let us remember that power and glory rest entirely in Allah's control, and Allah denies dominance to all that seek it. We thank you for your time listening this morning. Assalamu alaikum wa Ramadan Mubarak.